Injustice for some. Michael Hastings, Rolling Stone, BuzzFeed, The Notebook on the Young Turks, new book, Panic 2012. This is an all-star panel. All right. I'm super
dressed for the occasion. Yeah. He knew he was coming in and wanted to welcome me.
He goes with that, like, oh, I'm like a hard-scrabbled reporter kind of look. Like, I got it, Michael.
Thank you, and it's an honor to be here with you, gentlemen, David, Glenn, and Jen. Yes. This is great.
All right, so let's get started. Today we had hearings out in Benghazi. I want to show you guys a report from ABC News about it, and then we'll come back and talk about what's right and what's wrong. Let's watch.
Republicans are calling them whistleblowers, 3 State Department witnesses who've come forward with information challenging the Obama administration's handling of the Benghazi attack.
It matters to me personally, and it matters to my colleagues, my colleagues at the Department of State.
In emotional testimony, Gregory Hicks, the former deputy chief of mission in Libya, described the night Ambassador Chris Stevens and the 3 other Americans were killed.
I got the ambassador on the other end, and he said, "Greg, we're under attack."
Hicks believes the Obama administration could have done more that night. In the days after the attack, UN Ambassador Susan Rice recited talking points from intelligence officials that the attack was the result of a spontaneous protest. The Obama administration later admitted the incident was a terrorist attack.
So here's what I want to start with. Glenn, let me start with you. There's 2 topics here, right? We could have done more to prevent the attack. And then the one that they're really focusing on is Susan Rice came out and lied during the Sunday talk shows, said it was just a demonstration, not really a terrorist attack. And here are diplomats saying, no, we knew from the beginning it was a terrorist attack. So what's your take on that?
I mean, I think that progressives have been way too dismissive of the questions that are being raised. Obviously, Republicans are interested in this because they want to inflict political harm, but that's how oversight and accountability are always done in Washington. You don't really care what the motive is, if it's noble or ignoble. The question is, are there legitimate questions being asked? And I think clearly the answer is yes, more so about whether the administration purposely downplayed what had happened with an eye toward the looming presidential election. And there's a history where the administration often makes false statements, like they did in the aftermath of the killing of Osama bin Laden, that turn out to be utterly and completely false. And they claim later on, well, it was just the fog of war. We weren't really sure. We did our best. But it always seems to redound to their benefit, right? If these were true mistakes, half the time it would help them, half the time it would hurt them. When it always is politically beneficial, you start to conclude that the falsehood is deliberate. And that's a pretty significant issue, is whether they recklessly said things that they didn't believe were true or said things they knew were false about an event this significant.
So let me run a theory by you guys. My theory is that they're used to lying almost about every single event that happens. Oh, they didn't down our helicopter. Of course the Taliban couldn't do that. And a couple of weeks later, oh, they did down our helicopter. And, Osama bin Laden hid behind his wife. It turns out he didn't. He had a gun. It turns out he didn't, etc. I think that they got surprised here because they're like, what do you mean? We lie about this all the time. We were lying about this. And all of a sudden, the Republicans might want to make a big stink out of it. I thought we'd agreed to lie about stuff like this.
Here's the only thing I don't understand. I don't understand the thrust of the lie. What does the lie get them versus the truth? If the truth is that it was a terrorist attack, if the truth is that we went to war in Libya and then there was a terrorist attack on us, to me, I see as much political, if you can call it, upside for them saying there was a terrorist attack and now the president is the commander-in-chief and I'm going to investigate this terrorist attack, as simple as saying that it was a spontaneous uprising. I'm sort of agreeing with you in the sense that maybe they're so used to lying that that's just the default setting, but I don't understand the political motive, what they hope to get out of it.
Okay, so I've ended up doing a lot of reporting on this. Let's flash back to September 11th, 2012, when this actually happened. The White House officials who I've spoken to about this, they did not honestly know what they were dealing with as this was unfolding. As happens in real-time events, not only they were dealing with Benghazi, there were riots all over the Middle East that they were trying to get a handle on. The CIA station chief in Tripoli immediately reported back that it was a terrorist attack. Once that information was processed through the White House, it went through the intelligence community, right? The intelligence community, that process was driven by John Brennan. What Brennan did was essentially take these other intelligence things and then come up with this larger assessment, overruling the CIA station chief and overruling, as we know, with this whistleblower clearly as well, to say, no, we have not yet determined what the true cause of this is, and we think this video is involved. But there were questions raised by Hillary Clinton, and by Joe Biden within that first week. Everybody sort of knew it was a terrorist attack, but this intelligence committee was playing games with what it really was because of politics. I mean, word had gone out in the months before the election to anyone involved in the White House foreign policy apparatus. For whatever your portfolio is, do not cause problems. Keep your head down. If you're working on Iraq, don't make any stupid phone calls. Don't get any bad headlines. If you're working on Libya, keep your head down. And they didn't. They got blown up. And,
yeah, I mean, the thing is, it was on September 11th, right? So instinctively, you immediately should be wondering, is this a coordinated planned attack as opposed to something spontaneous? But to David's point, I think that the Obama campaign was all about, we've suppressed al-Qaeda, we've killed Osama bin Laden, we've kept the country safe. So if there's that kind of a terrorist attack on the U.S. that successfully kills an ambassador, it looks like the United States is weak. It gives the Republicans an in. And at that point, Obama is head in the polls, looking like he's going to win. They just want to kind of coast home. Right. And so to be able to say, oh, this was just about a film that we had nothing to do with, I think is the politically safer course of action. It doesn't make it seem like the war in Libya was a mistake, that it unleashed all these horrible things, and it doesn't put pressure on the Obama administration to act in a way it doesn't want to act shortly before the election. So I think they would have vastly preferred that it was.
Although my reaction would be that if we got attacked in the middle of essentially an occupation or a perceived occupation, that's not necessarily surprising to a lot of Americans, right?
Yeah, I hear you on all that, but I think Glenn's right, because I think that's the safer route, and Obama always takes the safer route. The safer route is, oh, it wasn't terrorism, and they think, get it out first, nobody will hear the retraction, because that's the usual play, right? And in this case, the Republicans were like, wait, we're before an election. No, we're going to make a big stink out of this, and I think that they pounced on it. Real quick, before we leave the topic, though, what should happen? I mean, so now Mike Huckabee's on his show talking about impeachment. Of course, right? So what is the reality? We apparently tend to agree that they went in the wrong direction in that first weekend. Is there
if we're going to intervene,
what do we do?
If we're going to intervene in countries like this, we're going to get ambassadors killed. I mean, and that's the reality of it. There's no 100% security. There's not even 50% security when you're in a place where there's 100 attacks already that year. I mean, if we're going to do this, they have to accept that they're going to lose lives for stupid reasons.
Right, but I mean, that's definitely true.
I'm not saying I don't endorse it. I'm just saying.
No, you're right about that. But I think the other thing is the reason why the Obama administration confidently lies or makes false claims is because in general they're in unilateral control of information. There's no accountability, there's no checks, there's no disclosure, it's all kept secret, there's no oversight of any kind. So there shouldn't be impeachment or punishment, but what there should be is an extreme amount of skepticism in the future when the Obama administration makes claims without being checked, and support for the efforts by Congress, even if it's the big bag of Republicans driving it and whatever their bad motives are support for the effort to get more information into the hands of the public rather than less.
I totally agree. This is not that the Republicans are screwing up by doing oversight this time. It's that they screwed up by not doing oversight on everything else.
Right. This is how it's supposed to work.
Right. And not just Republicans, Democrats. I mean, my God, the negligence of those 8 years of the Bush administration and not doing proper oversight was unbelievable. So I want to go to Syria before we leave foreign policy. Obviously we've got refugees spilling out of the country now, 500,000 to Jordan, 200,000 to Turkey. Those are allies. You would think that we should help in that situation. But then that gets to the question of what do we do? It's easy to identify what we shouldn't do. The question is, what should we do, if anything?
I will try to offer up the things that we should at least be on our mind. We do not have a very good track record of backing rebels. That has not really gone well for the United States.
What do you mean? We backed Mujahideen against the Soviet Union. Right. That didn't cause any problems, did it?
That caused no problems. So whenever I hear a congressman or a senator say arming rebels or we should get with the rebels and help the rebels, I feel like Americans get this idea of us helping the rebels in Star Wars, and that seems all great. But we forget the history of what happens when we have helped rebels that we don't really know who they necessarily are. So I think all that is to say is that there is no easy solution, and that the so-called solution of just jump in there and back the rebels, I think, is not necessarily a good solution.
David, one amendment to that. When we're helping them, they're rebels. When they turn on us, they're terrorists.
That's right. That's
okay,
exactly
just to be
right.
clear
Get the
about
terminology
that.
Clear.
All right, Glenn, I'm curious what you
So David's right, although we sort of do know who the rebels are. I mean, some of them are just ordinary Syrian citizens fighting against tyranny, but the real fighters are Islamic extremists and people affiliated with al-Qaeda. So it's remarkable that a decade out of 9/11, we're calling for a lot of our political class House is calling for the arming and funding of al-Qaeda. We've essentially been funding them, and we did similar things in Libya as well, where at least part of the forces that we supported there were armed, were affiliated with them as well. A lot of times, as horrible as it is, when extremely terrible things happen in the world, there's not always something that the United States can do to make it better. And oftentimes, all the things it is inclined to do might just make it worse. And I think that's probably the case in Syria. It's an incredibly complicated country. It's hard to navigate. The U.S. military is constructed to destroy, not to build, as we've seen over and over.
We're pretty good at that.
Yeah, we're definitely good at that. But as we see in Iraq, 8 years later, 9 years later, where on weekends, dozens and dozens, sometimes hundreds of people are still dying, you can actually make it much worse.
All right, last word goes to Michael. They're saying stay out. What do you say?
Yeah, I think, for me, humanitarian aid that's somehow neutral is sort of my general principle on this, even though that has a host of problems as well. I think what we're dealing with here is the spillover from Iraq, where we funded actually the vaunted Sunni awakening of the surge was Islamic Sunni extremist. A lot of this funding came out of Syria from Ba'athist refugees there, and that's where. So we're going to end up supporting these horrible people, because especially when you have this situation of total chaos, the most extreme elements always beat out the Western liberal guys, who I don't even know, there's so few left, and I just say don't get involved.
Well, do you remember when the liberals won the elections in Iraq and Egypt, though?